The contents of this video will be broken up into two parts. The first part will explain how to build a robot version of a superhero or villain. Remember, these are the detailed blueprints to building real-life superheroes from Marvel Comics or DC Comics. Part 2 of this video will cover the microscopic details of the technology. Two related inventions will be primarily covered: 1. The super-intelligent robot. 2. And the practical time machine. Both are patented by Mitchell Kwok, 2007 and 2008, respectively. Part 2 will be repeated over and over again in a series of videos, called Superhero Robots. Each video in the set will cover a different superhero. Part 1, Superhero Robots. The following video is based on a real-life invention filed with the United States Patent Office called the Practical Time Machine. 22 patents were filed between 2006 to 2009. Components of the practical time machine are used in permutations and combinations to build any superhero from Marvel Comics or DC Comics. These are robotic superheroes known as super-intelligent robots. I use superheroes as an analogy to super robots because that's what they are. With the success of human-level artificial intelligence, we, the human race, can build robots that can think and act just like humans. The next logical step is to advance the technology and build super robots that go beyond human-level intelligence and abilities. Basically, the definition of a super-intelligent robot is a self-aware entity imbued with intelligence and abilities that exponentially exceeds a human. For all intents and purposes, a super-intelligent robot should have all three attributes: 1. Superintelligence, 2. Supermobility, 3. And superpowers. Superintelligent robots is similar to superheroes because they are superior to humans. Both inherit basic characteristics of humans, but greatly exceed them in terms of intelligence and abilities. The patent that viewers should analyze, and directly relates to this video, is patent number 12/471382. Entitled, Practical Time Machine Using Dynamic Efficient Virtual and Real Robots. Approximately 22 total patent applications were filed with the USPTO on this invention from 2006 to 2009. Priority. Components to the practical time machine, comprising: 1. Human-level artificial intelligence. 2. Super-intelligent robot. 3. Atom manipulator. 4. Digital timeline of Earth that tracks every atom, electron, and EM radiation for the past, present, and future. 5. Virtual United States government system. The components of the practical time machine is used in permutations and combinations to build any type of superhero robot. For superheroes like Professor X, his powers are psychic abilities, mind control, and remote viewing. Cable is a cyborg and can teleport. For other characters, like Thanos, it's targeted time travel. Developers have to construct these robots according to each character's superpowers and physical characteristics. In this video, the actual blueprints to a robot version of Professor X will be disclosed. The first component is self-explanatory. The super-intelligent robots are exponentially smarter than humans. What a human worker can do in 30 years, a super robot can do in less than 1 second. The fourth item is a technology that tracks every atom on Earth. The artificial intelligence is using these atoms as forensic evidence to predict past events. The technology is basically tracking each atom on Earth for the past, present, and future, every nanosecond. The atom manipulator is a machine that uses EM radiation to manipulate objects, most notably atoms, from the environment. It generates intelligent pressure or controlled force fields to move atoms, merge atoms to form molecules, break molecules apart, or manipulating elemental parts of an atom like electrons, and protons, neutrons. In turn, The intelligent pressure creates ghost machines. These ghost machines are not physical robots that work together to do manual labor. The virtual United States government is a law system that governs robots, virtual robots, and superintelligent robots. We know through the media these machines are dangerous and all-powerful. The system is put in place to make sure they won't break laws of the U.S. Constitution. The most important one is a robot cannot harm or kill a human being. Professor X, Mind Reading and Manipulation. These are the components to building Professor X. The only thing needed is a superintelligent robot. Professor X's abilities include reading, controlling people's thoughts and actions, and extracting information about the current environment through remote viewing. The superintelligent robot basically uses artificial intelligence to spy and extract psychic information. It also needs the atom manipulator to control people's minds. For example, if Professor X wanted to insert ideas into a person, the atom manipulator has to create sound voices in the ear of said person, or it can manipulate brain activities to create telepathy sounds inside said person's mind. I know that Professor X controls his powers via his powerful mind, but it would be a whole lot easier if that power can be controlled by an external device, like a smartphone. This method is preferred because smartphones have user-friendly apps that you can use to extract and process information. There are many different types of information you might want from the environment, and accessing and granting permission should be done through an external computer and not through the mind. The spying on this technology uses EM radiation, such as sonar or microwaves, to map out the environment. In the case of a human subject, the technology can map out not only what it can see on the surface, but internal organs as well. The surveillance is meticulous and thorough, and even individual veins and blood cells are identified and tracked. The spine is so precise that the human brain can be read in terms of internal thoughts. The visual images and voices in the brain can be read through bursts of energy coming from the brain. A form of machine learning or artificial intelligence is applied to this data to map out the internal thoughts of a human subject. Since this thing can read minds, it can also manipulate a human subject by inserting voices in its head or to manipulate brain activities to do what the robot wants. It also acts as a surveillance camera that spies on things and compile a summary of activities or events that took place during the day. The super robot's brain, Professor X, is able to use his mind to control what psychic information to extract and where, when on Earth to extract those information from. For example, if the professor has no idea who a person B is, he can map out person B's brain in the computer and access memory data on who this person is, and important information about him. The supercomputer can do this by reading dominant neuron memories from his brain. Maybe, it can locate the identity part of person B's brain and translate the neurons about his name, phone number, date of birth, and address. He can know about person B's past by accessing memories in his brain. The computer has to fully understand how the human brain works and understand each organ's functions. Artificial intelligence is used to produce a profile on person B in terms of future actions, past memories, personality preferences, and identity. An atom-by-atom mapping of person B's brain is stored in the computer, and the AI is trying to mine information from that digital brain. An easier way to do this is for the superintelligent robot, Professor X, to enter the virtual world to do a search over the internet on person B. Maybe a picture search of what he currently looks like will reveal a name. Then the superintelligent robot can do a search on that name over the internet, most notably social media. This will allow Professor X to discover new and vital information about person B. When he is done with the search, he can exit the virtual world and enter the real world to apply the information he has just discovered. To better understand how Professor X's powers work, I'm going to describe two additional inventions. 1. The torture device. 2. The 5-sense virtual reality technology. The fundamental abilities of Professor X's powers is to control a human being in every conceivable way. Everything from extracting data, to how the brain functions, to what the human senses from the environment are controlled by this robot. There are many applications to this technology. Unfortunately, bad things can be created. This is partly why I am disclosing this information to the public at large. I can use the components of my practical time machine to create a smartphone that can torture or kill humans from a distance. There are three components to this future smartphone. The super-intelligent robots is the central intelligence of the invention. They use the perfect timeline of Earth to track and understand the behaviors of atoms. Next, the super-intelligent robots use the atom manipulator to manipulate objects in the real world. Before I explain the future smartphone, let me give a detailed description of the atom manipulator. Diagram 4a depicts the atom manipulator. It has the ability to control atoms or molecules from a distance using EM radiation, such as microwaves, sound waves, X-rays, artificial magnetic fields, etc. The supercomputer is controlling the atom manipulator to generate something called intelligent pressure. In addition, the supercomputer uses a perfect digital timeline of Earth. This timeline tracks every atom on planet Earth for the past, present, and future, every nanosecond. The abilities of the atom manipulator is to generate intelligent pressure to move atoms around, trap atoms in a fixed location, apply energy to break apart molecules, or merge atoms together to form complex molecules. With these abilities, it can build any type of ghost machine to do work. A ghost machine is a non-physical machine that can do anything a physical machine can do. Here is a ghost machine to turn a bottle cap. Intelligent pressure is used to hold the bottle in place so it doesn't move. Next, intelligent pressure is applied to the cap in a counterclockwise manner. This will screw the cap off the bottle. Different types of molecules or force fields can be created from thin air to form any shape or size tools to do work. The key here is to create structured force fields to replace physical tools. The elemental actions are the hold, grip, push, twist, and pull. The supercomputer has to do these elemental actions according to the limited space available. If a goal is to screw a nail, a ghost machine has to do this according to the empty space available. An intelligent force field is created and it can come in different sizes and shapes. This force field can perform the following actions: hold, grip, push, twist and pull the nail. The ghost machine can also cut a board in half. It uses lasers to break apart individual molecules in specific areas. An alternative is to build a knife out of metal particles and use intelligent pressure to move the blade. The opposite is true, whereby two separate boards are molecularly combined. With these elemental actions the ghost machines can do anything. Let's look at a very complex example. This diagram shows thousands of ghost machines generated by the computer to assemble a car in the fastest time possible. Each ghost machine do different things. Some machines screw caps on and others combine metal frames together. From start to finish the atom manipulator can assemble a car in less than 3 minutes. The supercomputer is responsible for the intelligence and coordination of each ghost machine. A faster way to assemble a car is to build the car at an atomic level. The atom manipulator is building the car, atom by atom, by moving atoms around, merging atoms together to form complex molecules, or positioning atoms in a fixed location. This process takes less than 10 seconds to build a car. Ghost machines can come in different sizes and shapes. It can manipulate large objects like a building or small objects like a water molecule. The ultimate goal for the ghost machines is to manipulate individual atoms and molecules. One example is ripping a person apart atom by atom and putting all the pieces back together again. If this technique is perfected, the human race needn't worry about old age or death. The torture and killing smartphone. Referring to Fig 22b, a human is controlling a smartphone that can torture or kill people remotely. A terrorist can put this atom manipulator in his backpack, go to a political event, and kill a politician using a user-friendly app on his smartphone. I call this technology the torture device. This machine uses a range of EM radiation to spy and manipulate objects from a distance. Although this electronic device has many applications, this report will only cover humans as targets. Its capabilities include causing living organisms, like humans, nerve pain, anywhere on the body, internally or externally, muscle pain, destructive laser burns, with controlled intensity that goes from minor to major, causing bloating or intestinal gas. This is done by heating the food content in the intestines, burning or itching anywhere on the body, artificial heart attacks or strokes, instant unconsciousness, mind reading, manipulation of thoughts and voices in the head, applying pressure to internal organs, and any artificial health-related symptom. This device uses the latest in artificial intelligence to torture people, to track them, and to find a means of delivering pain based on instructions from the user. The user is controlling the torture device through an electronic device such as a smartphone or laptop computer. The internet is used to communicate with this torture device. The spying on this technology uses EM radiation such as sonar or microwaves to map out the environment. In the case of a human subject, the technology can map out, not only what it can see on the surface, but internal organs as well. The spine is so precise that individual veins are identified and tracked. The torture device can track individual veins and cause pain no matter where the human is located or how hard he or she tries to block the signals. A human subject can try to protect itself by using tinfoil or solid metal walls, but the torture device will simply switch to other forms of EM radiation to go around metal, such as sound waves or sonar. It might be possible to bend the properties of microwaves so that it can go around objects. The spine is so precise that the human brain can be read in terms of internal thoughts. The visual images and voices in the brain can be read through bursts of energy coming from the brain. A form of machine learning or artificial intelligence is applied to this data to map out the internal thoughts of a human subject. Since this thing can read minds, it can also manipulate a human subject by inserting voices in its head or to manipulate brain activities to do what the user wants. It also acts as a surveillance camera that spies on things and compile a summary of activities or events that took place during the day. The user can harass the human subject by pre-programming instructions into the torture device, such as putting an uncomfortable feeling on his left shoulder for 10 hours straight at intervals of every 5 seconds. This means the person being tortured will feel someone either scratching or applying pressure to her left shoulder every 5 seconds for 10 hours straight. The human subject will notice that this pain only applies if he or she is stationed in the house, given that the torture device is hidden somewhere in the house. If the human subject leaves the house, about 60 feet or more, the pain stops or the pain has substantially decreased. This is because the torture device can only work within a range of 40–50 feet. If the torture device is located on a satellite high above the Earth's stratosphere, the subject will be tortured for 10 hours straight, and no matter what he or she does, the pain will always be there. This device comes in different sizes and shapes. A small torture device can only work on targets that are in close proximity, usually 40–50 feet, although this range can increase, and the device can decrease in size. A larger model can be added to an orbiting satellite so that any living organism on Earth can be a potential target. Furthermore, with the help of supercomputers, all happenings on Earth can be privately extracted. The smartphone has user-friendly interface functions to control the torture device. Said user-friendly interface functions include controlling the intensity of the pain, the types of pain that can be inflicted, and pre-programmed instructions to torture or kill people. This torture device can also control insects and animals. For example, EM radiation can be sent out to insects to elicit an action, like walking a certain path or biting a person on a specific area. Multiple insects or animals can be controlled at the same time using the artificial intelligence to accomplish a user task. These commands include things like controlling 30 roaches to converge on a person and bite his left leg, or 30 roaches picking up a box and carrying it to the table. This torture device is one of the world's worst weapons. This thing spies on all objects on Earth, and it can manipulate all objects on Earth. If this technology falls into the wrong hands, like a dictator or corrupted government, this can pose a great danger to freedom, democracy, and security. Despite the fact that this technology is dangerous, it's also the next evolution of the Internet. Up to this point, no one can kill or physically harm people over the Internet. This torture device changes all that. The stuff that people talk about over the Internet, like electronic harassment or torture, isn't too far from the truth. In fact, it's worse than that. With the advancement of technology, this torture device will be a nightmare reality soon. This subject matter was talked about in science fiction novels and comic books since the 60s. Now humanity have the means of building this technology. It's a matter of time before someone actually does. This is a very dangerous technology, and one day, soon, there will be a national debate about laws that should be put in place to protect people's physical body. 5 Sense virtual reality technology. The atom manipulator applied to virtual reality and virtual video games. Current virtual reality technology doesn't allow a player to experience touch, taste, or smell in a virtual environment. Referring to diagram 22A, when you're playing a game like Call of Duty, the developers want to engage all 5 senses for the player. Currently, VR only deals with sight and sound. It would be infinitely better if the experience not only includes sight and sound, but the other missing senses as well, like taste, touch, and smell. This problem can be solved by using my atom manipulator to generate sensations for the 3 senses, taste, touch, and smell. Touch sense. There are 2 ways to generate realistic touch sensations. One way is to use the atom manipulator to generate intelligent pressure to push a player's body parts and skin. For example, if the video game environment is a snowstorm and wind is blowing in front of the player, the atom manipulator has to generate enough force to push against the player's skin to give a sensation of actual wind. Another way to generate realistic touch sensations is to mess with the nerve veins of the player and provide a consistent pressure on the nerves. Physically, the player, human, is not being touched, only his nerve endings are being stimulated, and that gives the illusion of being touched. The machine has to track all molecules on the player's body and precisely identify internal nerves and muscles. Using a form of EM radiation, like microwaves or sound waves, the nerves can be stimulated. The second method is better than the first because the player can be stationary, and sitting comfortably on a chair while playing the video game. Even the problem about VR sickness, where the ear's equilibrium is unbalanced, can be solved using the second method. The atom manipulator can physically control internal parts of the ears and make the organs work so that motion sickness is non-existing. Furthermore, the atom manipulator can use both method 1 and method 2 to trick the player's mind into thinking he is being touched on any part of his body, internally or externally. As far as things like being shot or being hit by King Kong is concerned, the virtual pain can be manageable and it doesn't have to be a death thing. The user has access to user-friendly apps that can control the degree of pain while playing a game. For games like Call of Duty, a bomb explosion is like a fan pushing on the player's body, or a shot can be a tap on his back. Some people prefer something more painful, but that's up to the player's preferences. Smell. This one is easy. The atom manipulator has an atom reserves area, comprising individual atoms, oxygen, helium, hydrogen, etc. It has to combine these atoms into complex smell molecules and move them to the player's nose. So, the smell is actually real. The atom manipulator is able to create different smells according to a game, and move these gases to the player's nose. If the scene is a pizza restaurant, then the smell of cooking and pizza will be what the player smells. If the scene is a person farting in front of the player, then fart, gases like methane and sulfur, will be generated by the atom manipulator. If the player was in a crowded city like Hong Kong, the smell of diesel fuel and pollution will be in the air. Taste. This one is kind of hard to emulate because if the player is eating a solid food like an apple, the food has to travel down his throat and into his stomach. An alternative is to generate liquid fluids that taste like the real thing. For example, if the robot is eating an apple, the atom manipulator will create intelligent pressure inside the player's mouth to give the impression like he's biting on a real solid apple. Next, a liquid is created in front of the player's tongue of apple cider. Then, the atom manipulator has to do things to the throat and stomach to give the impression that food is going down his throat. The atom manipulator can use either method 1 or method 2 from the touch sense to accomplish this. The apple cider is made by taking hydrogen and oxygen atoms from the atom's reserve area and combining them together to form water. Next, it will create apple molecules and mix that in with the water. Thus, the atom manipulator is creating a physical taste in the player's mouth. Simultaneously, the intelligent pressure created in the player's mouth is just to give the illusion like the teeth is biting on a physical apple. An intelligent force field is generated in the player's mouth and his teeth is being pushed up and down. When the player swallows the food, intelligent pressure is put on the throat and stomach to give the impression that food is being swallowed. The second method is to use the atom manipulator to stimulate taste buds and taste sensations. No liquid is created from thin air and teleported inside the player's mouth. Only the taste senses are stimulated by microwaves or sound waves to give the impression of tasting food. I'm not familiar with the mechanics of how the tongue tastes food, but the atom manipulator has to emulate the same processes on the player, whether it's chemical reactions or electrical stimulation. Now, a more updated version of the VR technology would exclude the visor and earplugs. The atom manipulator can replace the visor with streaming light into the player's eyes. It can also create intelligent pressure to move the air in the player's ears. Thus, the sound and sight of the player can be experienced without the bulky headgears. If you carefully analyze this VR technology, it is actually a device that can control a human for all 5 senses: sight, sound, taste, touch, and smell. I often call this thing the torture device because it can torture people and kill, if it wanted to. It can give you a heart attack, or make you burp, or burn your skin off. This VR technology is very important and has the potential to make a lot of money. It can give a human a virtual experience that is so real that the brain won't know the difference between a virtual experience and the real experience. Imagine what this technology will do to the porn industry? Just a thought. An easier way to trick the 5 senses is by directly controlling the human brain's 5 sense signals. The atom manipulator must track and identify the veins that connect the 5 senses to the brain. Once those veins are identified, the AI will reproduce the same signals of real-life experiences into the player's brain, artificially. The brain is just electrical signals zipping back and forth like a highway system. If the atom manipulator can identify the veins that send electrical signals to the brain on sensing taste, then it can artificially produce the same signals as if the brain was receiving signals from the mouth. The atom manipulator is directly controlling all aspects of the brain in terms of organ functions, mental thoughts, and electrical signals. In order to do that, the artificial intelligence has to map out the brain, atom by atom, and to understand all aspects of its functionality so that the machine can use a range of EM radiation to manipulate it. I call this total mind control. Some people might ask, what's the difference between your 5-sense virtual reality technology and the technology presented in the Matrix movies? Referring to Figure 34b, the Matrix movie uses a bulky machine, connected to a human brain, to generate a realistic virtual experience. My invention is an external device that is not connected to a human brain, and uses a range of EM radiation to give the human subject a realistic virtual experience. However, both technologies basically do the same things, to give a person a realistic virtual experience through all 5 senses. The artificial experience is so real that the human subject won't know the difference between what they experience in the virtual world and the real world. If you step back for a second and digest the information I just disclosed above, you will notice the full extent of Professor X's powers. Both, the torture device and the 5-sense virtual reality technology are abilities that Professor X has. This video only covers humans as objects that Professor X can manipulate. In reality, he can control any object that you can think of. This includes both intelligent and non-intelligent objects. The robot can manipulate animals, for example, or a refrigerator. These objects can be manipulated in terms of physical manipulation or mental manipulation. In terms of a machine, Professor X can manipulate its hardware and software to make it do anything he wants it to do. Manipulation of computers will be challenging, but that is the ultimate goal of this technology. Case in point, the ability to manipulate the happenings inside a tiny CPU is very difficult. The ability to manipulate the hardware of the computer can be done using the atom manipulator. However, controlling the software is exponentially harder because super robots have to use AI to gain knowledge about the software and to devise strategies to control it. Just like how Professor X uses his powers to control humans, he is using the same technique on other objects, like computers and animals. As you already know, this type of computer control does not require an internet connection. And this type of hacking cannot be protected by antivirus software because the atom manipulator is physically manipulating the computer. The important thing here is that the super robots have to first understand the object it wants to control. Next, they have to devise strategies to control it using the atom manipulator. Diagram 56b depicts the data structure of robot Professor X. You will notice that the central intelligence that generates Professor X's powers is his smartphone. He is using the smartphone to control his powers. Inside the smartphone, there exist a plurality of super-intelligent robots that do the artificial intelligence and controlling of the atom manipulator. As stated before, using a smartphone to control superpowers is a better idea than using the human mind. The robotic version of Professor X would be greatly improved if he was able to control his powers through an external electronic device that has user-friendly interface functions. This doesn't just apply to Professor X, but all superheroes. The smartphone can be a device mounted on a robot. This computer can serve as a personal assistant, with direct aid in decision-making. It can accept commands verbally or through an app. This idea is very similar to Iron Man's personal assistant, Jarvis. I just completed a video, entitled, How to Build the Green Lantern. In it, I describe how complicated some of Green Lantern's powers are. It would be a great improvement if he uses a smartphone to control his powers. He can decide what kind of ghost machines to create and what kind of tasks to perform on each ghost machine. Some of the commands inputted into the smartphone can be long and meticulously complicated, which humans are unable to perform. This method is preferred instead of using the human mind as a means of controlling superpowers. Part 2, Data Structures, the Blueprints to Building Any Robotic Superhero. In the second half of the video I will describe both the super-intelligent robot and the practical time machine in great details. How does this super-intelligent robot work? Here is the data structure of my super-intelligent robot. First, you need a humanoid robot with human-level AI. This means the robot has intelligence and skills of a human at a college level. The robot has a built-in virtual world and has the freedom to enter and exit said virtual world at any given time. Inside the virtual world is a simulation of real-world environments. The robot's brain will be tricked in these simulations to produce results. The basic idea behind this invention is to have the robots do work inside a virtual world instead of the real world to save time. The robot uses the following steps to solve a complex problem in 1 second. 1. Identify a problem to solve and enter the virtual world. 2. Set the environment of the virtual world and generate teams of virtual robots. 3. Do work in virtual world. 4. After problem is solved, exit virtual world and enter real world. Let's say the robot wanted to write an operating system. The virtual robots are structured like a software company and they work inside the virtual world for 30 years to write an operating system. 30 years inside a virtual world is like 1 second in the real world because the computer can fast forward time. If you look at Microsoft, they needed 30 years and thousands of human programmers in order to write the Windows 10 operating system. My psychic robot can do the same task of writing an operating system, in less than 1 second. This robot can solve any given problem in 1 second. It can write a book, find a permanent cure to cancer, do 30 years of research, make a movie, solve a long math equation, or do any college assignment, in less than 1 second. So, that is the basic idea and summary of my psychic robot. This technology is also known as a super intelligent robot. Inside the virtual world, each copy of the robot, called virtual robots, have their 5 senses and mind tricked to believe that events are happening. They won't know the difference between events in the real world and the virtual world. I think of this method as robots dreaming of doing work. Depending on the type of work the super intelligent robots have to do, the procedures inside the virtual world are different. In the description part of this page is a link to my super intelligent robot and it contains detailed description of these 4 applications. 1. Robots that uses a virtual world to predict future events in less than 1 second. 2. Robots that can accomplish 30 years of work inside a virtual world in less than 1 second, writing the source codes to an operating system in 1 second is one example. 3. Robots that learn knowledge or do training inside a virtual world in less than 1 second. Learning to fly an airplane is one example. 4. Robots that do work, in both the real world and the virtual world, and accomplish tasks in the fastest time possible by maximizing work in the virtual world and minimizing work in the real world. Building a house in 3 days is one example. For instance, if super intelligent robots wanted to build a house in the real world, they will have to switch from the virtual world to the real world to do work. For complex prediction tasks like predicting the digital timeline of Earth, the team structure of the robots look like this. Notice they aren't hierarchical in nature. There are billions of structured virtual robots trying to predict past events on planet Earth. 3 massive corporations are set up in the virtual world. These 3 corporations are competing with each other to predict past events. The reward is, whomever predicts an event in Earth's past first, receives the copyrights to that information. For example, if Company 2 predicts the exact atom-by-atom event of the O.J. Simpson case, Company 2 will receive the copyrights to that information. Not to mention bragging rights. The team structure of virtual robots inside the virtual world can be anything. It doesn't have to be hierarchical in nature. It could be a company structure, a government system similar to the United States, it could be a competition between rivalry companies, etc. These virtual robots can be set up in any structure and manner to accomplish tasks. The team structure will depend on what objectives the robot wants to accomplish. Only one robot is responsible for setting the environment and extracting information from the virtual world. How do I make the robot smarter? I propose 3 methods in the patent application. 1. Increase the length of future predictions. The farther into the future the robot can predict, the smarter it becomes. For example, if Microsoft builds a robot that can predict 2 minutes into the future, and I build a robot that can predict 5 hours into the future, that means I have a smarter robot. 2. Imbue the robot with quick body movements and reflexes, like Superman. 3. Increase the speed of the robot's mind so time can slow down and the robot has the ability to control time. He can act with normal time or act by slowing time. The final result is a robot that can accomplish any work in the real world or the virtual world in the fastest time possible. The robot's goal is to maximize work in the virtual world and minimize work in the real world. Normally it would take 30 years for a team of human beings to build an operating system, and it takes 1 year for a team of human beings to build a house. My super robot can write an operating system, inside a virtual world, in less than 1 second. However, because physical work has to be done in the real world, it takes my super intelligent robots 1 week to build a house. Certain things like drafting the blueprints to the house or researching the cheapest materials can be done inside a virtual world. The actual building of the house must be done in the real world. In order to build a character like Quicksilver, the robot's mind has to speed up. In the real world, the faster it senses and thinks based on the current environment, the slower time becomes. Equipped with supermobility, whereby he has the ability to move body parts quickly, he can essentially freeze time. Time dilation can be controlled. He can use normal speed or quick speed to perform actions. Quicksilver is an exemplary example. He is one of the most powerful superheroes in the Marvel Universe, and has the capacity to kill 1,000 human beings in under 1 minute with his bare hands. This is a very disturbing fact, but that's why super-intelligent robots are regarded as dangerous and considered an existential threat to humans. Practical time machine. There are primarily 3 parts to my time machine. The super-intelligent robots is the central intelligence of the invention. They use the perfect timeline of Earth to track and understand the behaviors of atoms. Next, the super-intelligent robots use the atom manipulator to manipulate objects in the real world. Diagram 4a depicts the atom manipulator. It has the ability to control atoms or molecules from a distance using EM radiation, such as microwaves, sound waves, X-rays, artificial magnetic fields, etc. The supercomputer is controlling the atom manipulator to generate something called intelligent pressure. In addition, the supercomputer uses a perfect digital timeline of Earth. This timeline tracks every atom on planet Earth for the past, present, and future, every nanosecond. The abilities of the atom manipulator is to generate intelligent pressure to move atoms around, trap atoms in a fixed location, apply energy to break apart molecules, or merge atoms together to form complex molecules. With these abilities, it can build any type of ghost machine to do work. A ghost machine is a non-physical machine that can do anything a physical machine can do. Here is a ghost machine to turn a bottle cap. Intelligent pressure is used to hold the bottle in place so it doesn't move. Next, intelligent pressure is applied to the cap in a counterclockwise manner. This will screw the cap off the bottle. Different types of molecules or force fields can be created from thin air to form any shape or size tools to do work. The key here is to create structured force fields to replace physical tools. The elemental actions are the hold, grip, push, twist, and pull. The supercomputer has to do these elemental actions according to the limited space available. If a goal is to screw a nail, a ghost machine has to do this according to the empty space available. An intelligent force field is created and it can come in different sizes and shapes. This force field can perform the following actions: hold, grip, push, twist and pull the nail. The ghost machine can also cut a board in half. It uses lasers to break apart individual molecules in specific areas. An alternative is to build a knife out of metal particles and use intelligent pressure to move the blade. The opposite is true, whereby two separate boards are molecularly combined. With these elemental actions, the ghost machines can do anything. Let's look at a very complex example. This diagram shows thousands of ghost machines generated by the computer to assemble a car in the fastest time possible. Each ghost machine do different things. Some machines screw caps on and others combine metal frames together. From start to finish, the atom manipulator can assemble a car in less than 3 minutes. The supercomputer is responsible for the intelligence and coordination of each ghost machine. A faster way to assemble a car is to build the car at an atomic level. The atom manipulator is building the car, atom by atom, by moving atoms around, merging atoms together to form complex molecules, or positioning atoms in a fixed location. This process takes less than 10 seconds to build a car. Ghost machines can come in different sizes and shapes. It can manipulate large objects like a building or small objects like a water molecule. The ultimate goal for the ghost machines is to manipulate individual atoms and molecules. One example is ripping a person apart atom by atom and putting all the pieces back together again. If this technique is perfected, the human race needn't worry about old age or death. Conclusion. I published a book recently called, How to Build Robotic Real Superheroes from Marvel Comics and DC Comics. In the description part of this video is the link to the free book. It describes the step-by-step instructions to building any custom superhero. Superheroes covered in my book include, Dr. Manhattan, Invisible Woman, Professor X, the T-1000, Wolverine, Green Lantern, Doctor Strange, Cyclops, and Jean Grey. The T-1000 liquid metal is powerful because his body is indestructible. Quicksilver can think and act fast. Professor X has remote viewing and psychic abilities. Finally, Thanos can control time and reality. We can combine all these superheroes to build an invisible super-intelligent robot that cannot die. Think about it. The T-1000 cannot be killed. He is impervious to knives, guns and bombs. Quicksilver can kill 1,000 human beings in less than 1 minute with his bare hands. Doctor Strange can see into the future and predict all future outcomes. If we combine all these powers together, we have an indestructible robot. Finally, the artificial god is a government that comprises billions of super-intelligent robots. And presumably the artificial god is the most powerful entity anyone can build.